I'm Brian Lilly. Taxpayers getting hosed and wasteful governments flipping us the bird. That is the topic of tonight's byline. To say that the Ontario Auditor General's report was scathing is an understatement. Look at the headline, even in the Toronto Red Star, the Liberal Party's official newspaper, how Liberals wasted billions. The paper's two top stories then go on to detail billions wasted on the Mars bailout of a downtown Toronto office building and public-private partnerships, and then billions spent on putting smart meters on every house with little or nothing to show for it. Devastating stuff, no? Not really. Most people won't care. In Ontario, it seems that people reward you for wasting billions. I've covered politics across the country, but specifically I've covered audit reports in a detailed way at the municipal and provincial levels in Ontario and Quebec. I've covered the federal one, the federal auditor, for years. Now, regardless of province or who's been in power, I've never seen a government so wasteful, as documented by their own auditor, as the current government in Ontario. The current Conservative government in Ottawa doesn't even come close. And even with the sponsorship scandal, funny relocation contracts and computer cost overruns, even with the gun registry overruns, even with all of that, the past Liberal governments of Chrétien and Martin, they don't come close to the wastefulness of the Wynne government in Ontario. They wasted billions on e-health, the electronic health record system that, well, has never worked like it should. They frittered away taxpayers' money and rewarded their friends with the orange air ambulance fiasco, the one that they bought air ambulances that couldn't fit both patient and paramedic. And of course, they wasted $1 billion on gas plants that were never built just so they could save some Liberal seats. The public should be furious. They should be demanding resignations. But people knew about all of this before the election last spring. They knew much of it before the election in 2011. They decided they didn't care. Last June, they rewarded the Liberals with an expanded mandate, a majority government. So now there's a new report out. Wasted billions and strong words from Auditor General Bonnie Lysyk.
Our audit of the Smart Metering Initiative found that although nearly $2 billion of costs paid by ratepayers have been spent on this initiative, the targets of lowering peak demand, reducing the need to bring more generating capacity onto the electricity grid, and lowering overall customer bills are not close to being achieved.
Yeah, $2 billion spent, it didn't work. And the reaction from the Liberal government? Big yawn. Pat Lysyk on the head. Tell her that she and her auditors couldn't possibly understand the complex energy system. That's essentially what they're doing. Listen to the arrogance, the utter arrogance of Ontario's Energy Minister Bob Chiarelli.
You know, why are my numbers more credible than hers? First of all, the electricity system is very complex. It's very difficult to understand. And I can tell you that some of our senior managers, in discussing some of these issues with some of the representatives of the office, from the Auditor General's office, had the feeling that they didn't understand some of the elements of it.
All right, let me speak to Bob Chiarelli, directly to Bob Chiarelli for a minute. Bob, I covered you when you were mayor at Ottawa City Hall. You aren't a dumb man. I'm not going to insult you and say that. But if Bonnie Lysyk and her auditors are too dumb to understand the energy system, then you are as well. I wish that voters were smarter. Now, not you. I'm not talking about you in the audience. I'm talking about the low information voter that goes out and rewards goons like this with the majority because their union hoodwinked them into thinking that voting for anyone but a Liberal was bad. Now those civil servants are still looking at job cuts. They're still dealing with higher bills and watching tax money that could be spent on actual government services be wasted on fanciful pet projects that help no one but friends of the government. It used to be that this type of behavior was punished, that people would demand change. Now you can not only waste $1 billion of taxpayer money and get away with it, you can do it again and again and again and again, and nothing will happen. This sets a dangerous precedent. The MPs, the MPPs, the MLAs that we elect, their job is not to applaud and cheer like trained seals. Their job is to be a watch on the executive and its spending. That means keeping an eye on the Premier or the Prime Minister and their cabinet, watching what they do, and when they start wasting our hard-earned tax dollars, they are to pull tight on the purse strings and tell them no more money until you clean things up. But now, loyalty isn't to the taxpayer or the citizen that elected them. It is to party first. And if that party's screwing up, well, turn a blind eye. So they applaud, they cheer, they defend, but they do not question. And when that happens enough, well, these types of practices will spread. What we need are citizens, taxpayers to remind our elected officials that they work for us. But too many of us don't see things that way or care. Too many of us don't think about that big chunk of money that we don't get to keep from what we earn. Do you know how much you pay in taxes? Does your husband, does your wife, do your neighbors, your kids? I'm tired of people talking about free government services like free healthcare. None of it is free. Take out your pay stub. Look at the hundreds or thousands of dollars that you don't get to keep every 2 weeks because it's taken by government before you ever get to see it. Quite the trick, isn't it? Take it before you get to see it, and then most people won't think of it. But maybe if more of us did, especially as we deal with the mad rush of spending and bills at Christmas, if more of us looked at the big chunk taken by government, all the hours that we have to work to pay taxes, and then have that money wasted, if more of us did that, if they thought about it, maybe if we thought about it this way, then the public would get angry, maybe even demand that things improve. Something to ponder. And that's the byline.